Hi, this is Bev here. Thanks for joining me. Today I wanted to show you how to make some berry syrup. Now I grow berries in my garden and I have a bit of a glut at the moment. So I've been freezing them as I've been picking them. Also eating some as well, obviously. But there is quite a lot of them and I need to figure out a way of preserving them. Berries are pretty cheap in the supermarket as well, so if you don't grow your own, then this is a pretty cheap recipe to make. So we're going to make some syrup with the berries. And this syrup then is fairly diverse once it's made. You can use it as a cordial, you could use it in mocktails or cocktails. You can use it as a syrup on your pancakes or waffles. Or simply as a syrup on your ice cream. So yeah, fairly diverse. This also makes a good present. If you jar it up or pop it in some bottles, then you could give them away to people. So what you will need then is some berries. Now I've got a mixture here of strawberries, raspberries, black currants and blackberries. They need to be a little bit defrosted if you have frozen them. I know you can get bags of frozen veg at the supermarket, so if that's what you're using, then you need to defrost it a little bit. You don't want to cook it, so I've just defrosted mine till I can sort of squeeze them a little bit. There's less water in there. And then also you're going to need some water and you're going to need some sugar as well. Now I've got a bit of a mix of sugars here. There's some caster sugar in there and then there's some demerara as well, but whatever sugar you've got should be fine for this recipe. The blackberries that I've got have a high amount of pectin in. Now pectin is something that will thicken up your syrup. If you don't have blackberries, but you have something like blueberries, then they're also high in pectin. If you feel like you want your syrup to be a bit thicker, and then you can always squeeze a bit of lemon into it. And that's also really high in pectin. And if you're using sharp tasting fruits such as blackcurrants, then a bit of lemon juice usually takes the edge off of them. So I'll leave that thought with you. I'm not going to bother putting any lemon juice in mine. I'm just going to simply go for the berries. So what you need to do first is to crush your berries. So I'm just going to put my berries into the pan here that I'm going to make the syrup in. And just simply get your potato masher or a fork, and you want to just crush down your berries until you've got a bit of a pulpy puree going on in there. Okay, so once you've got your berries sort of crushed down, they're a bit of a pulpy paste, then you need to add your water. So it's going to be 200 millilitres, just cold water going in there. So you just want to crush down your berries a little bit more as you put in that water in. Make sure all the water's nicely mixed in. Okay, so that's all nicely mixed in now. You can see it's freed up a little bit. And then you need to pop your pan on the heat now, and you want to heat it until it's boiling. You probably need to heat it on a sort of medium heat until it's boiling. If you heat it up too fast, then you've always got the chance of the fruit burning to the bottom of the pan, which is not what you want. So once your fruit is boiling in the pan, then you can see it bubbling. I don't know if I can really show you. Then what you need to do is turn it down and let it simmer. Let it simmer on a low heat then for about 4 to 5 minutes. By which point all the juices from the berries will have been released. And then for the next part, what you're going to need is either a tea towel, a cheesecloth, or a piece of cotton. And what you'll need to do is dampen that off, and then you're going to use it to sieve the liquid out of the berry mixture. I've got a colander which I'll put my cloth into, and then I'll pour my berry juice into here, and I'll have another bowl underneath that. So the sieving process, you can speed up, which is what I'm going to do for the purpose of the video, by pushing the berries through the cloth. You could also just leave it all set up with your bowl underneath in the fridge overnight, by which point it should have sieved through by itself. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes now. I'm going to turn the pan off. What you've got now in here is a really loose mixture. You can see it's all softened up. And I've got my set up here to sieve out the berries. And they'll go into the bowl underneath. So I'm just going to pour this into here now. And then, like I say, you can just leave this in the fridge overnight. I'm just going to push it through now, so I can show you the next bit. Okay, so I have my berry juice, which has been sifted. And now what you need to do is add your sugar to this. But firstly, you need to know how much berry juice you've got, because that's how much sugar you're going to put in. So you need to measure it in a jug. So I've got about half a litre of juice here. So I'm going to pour that into my pan. And then I'm going to measure my sugar. So I'm pouring the sugar into the pan now, and then I'm going to heat up this mixture. Now, if you've used caster sugar, you won't need to heat this up for as long as I'm going to have to. I've got demerara in here, and you need to make sure that you can't see any of the sugar left, that it's all melted into the juice. So, just continuing to stir this because I don't want it to catch. You do need to get this onto a rolling boil for about a minute then. So while this is boiling, you need to get your containers ready. I'm just going to bob mine in a bottle that I've sterilised. You could use glass bottles. If you are using glass bottles, then you need to sterilise them first, which you can do in a hot oven. You could also as easily just put these into jars if you've been serving jars, especially if you're going to give some out for gifts. It's quite nice to put it in a jar and then maybe pop a bit of fabric or something over the lid. Then you can make a little label for it or something like that if you're giving it away for gifts. So once this in the pan starts to boil, you might see a bit of froth appear on the top. If it does, you just need to scoop that off before you pour the juice into your container that you're going to leave it in. This syrup is best kept in the fridge. You can also freeze it. So if you want it to last a bit longer, pop it in the freezer. It lasts for about 2 weeks in the fridge. So obviously, if you're not going to use it all straight away, then it is a good idea to pop it in the freezer then. So I don't know if you can see now, but the liquid has expanded in the pan. That's because it's all boiling. So once it starts to raise up in the pan, that's when you know that your rolling boil started, and that's when you need to count down your minute. So this has been boiling now for about a minute. I'm just going to turn it off now. And then it'll shrink back down into the pan. And if you do have sort of a lighter colour, well, they call it scum, but I don't like calling it that, on the top, then you just need to scrape that off. So I've taken the most of the scum off. You can't really see it in this pan, I guess. It's quite a dark liquid. And then I'm just going to pour it into my jug, and then I can pop it then into my vessels that I'm saving it in. So I hope you've enjoyed today's session in the kitchen with me.